This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the GSMC Sports Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Jeff Malinoff, and with me once again is Mark Souza. We have a lot to talk about over this past weekend, and Mark will name some games, and we'll go over them as they come. We'll also talk about the NBA, and Steve Kerr has said the NBA has gotten better. He says Dubs are now in real NBA. Quote, we'll get on that later. And Monday Night Football game tonight, and we'll get on that as soon as that progresses. So we will start in the National Football League for Week 11 on this Sunday. A lot of great games, a lot of instances, a lot of blowouts, and one gruesome injury. Should we start? Where do you want to start?
Let's start with the Fox game of the weekend. We saw the defending champion Philadelphia Eagles roll into New Orleans in the Superdome to face Drew Brees, his MVP-type season to date, and the Saints who have been rolling. And I think we both saw this coming. The Saints rolled in this game. They dominate big time. Final score of 48-7. Drew Brees with another strong case for MVP. 363 yards passing and 4 touchdowns, including that dime to Alvin Kamara late in the game on a 4th down play. He couldn't have thrown it any better. He could have handed it to him, and it wouldn't have been better than the pass that he threw. So, Drew Brees, I think, and that Saints team right now is cruising. And as for the Eagles, it might have been their last stand because now they're sitting at 4-6. It looks like it's all over for them, although there is a glimmer of hope because of what happened with the Redskins yesterday, and we'll talk about that here in the next few minutes. But what was your take from this game?
The Saints are the best team in football without question anymore. I mean, and how much have the Eagles have dropped since winning the Super Bowl? Like, I've heard of, like, the Super Bowl hangover, but this is just ridiculous. They haven't lost any main key players. Like, there wasn't like that, oh, they lost, like, a LeBron-esque player, and now they're trash, but like Carson Wentz is back, and they had Nick Foles as their backup doing most of the work, and Carson Wentz coming off an MVP-like year, and after his injury, 0 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, only 156 yards passing. Like, what happened to the guy? Like, it's like he's, I wouldn't say human, but it's like he's playing like he would play if you come out of North Dakota State, you know what I mean?
Yeah, he's definitely not playing with the same level of confidence that he had last year. Not sure if it's, regarding the injury and maybe the mental part of getting back, because, how some of these guys are. They can come back physically, but, maybe they haven't regained what they lost mentally when they were on a roll, like Carson Wentz was last year before he was injured. He was on a roll. He was one of the best players in the NFL, and then he gets injured, misses the rest of the season. And he hasn't been the same this year, but all in all, that offense and that team hasn't been the same. That defense has fallen apart this year, and, they can't run the ball effectively. That's kind of my take on it. What do you think is maybe their problem?
Definitely running problems, no question about it. Like, their leading rusher was 53 yards, and the leading rusher for the Saints was Mark Ingram, 103 yards on 16 attempts with 2 touchdowns himself. So, obviously, there are some points where you got to think there are some holes in this Super Bowl team, mostly in the running game, but everyone's contributing to the ineptitude. It's not just one guy playing really bad. Everyone's playing really bad.
Right. So, for the Eagles, I mean, it kind of seems like they need to run the table from here on out. Although winning the division will probably they probably need 4 wins to win that division at this point. I mean, 8-8 might do it. I know that sounds kind of low, but the Redskins are at 6-4. The Cowboys are at are they at 5-5 now? So, I mean, that division is tight, and I still think that the Eagles' only path is to win the division. So we'll see how they do in their head-to-head games. But let's move on. Let's move on to the other NFC East team that's in the running to win the division. How about the Cowboys? They go on the road yesterday. They now have gone on the road twice in a row and won games. They beat Atlanta 22-19. Game-winning kick by Brett Maher on the last play of the game. It wasn't a pretty win for the Cowboys, but a gritty win. They got it done. The kick barely sailed through. So now the Cowboys are at 5-5. What did you take from this game?
The Cowboys have really had I guess you can say a bounce back in the last couple of weeks. And overall, I would say that maybe the Cowboys can steal this division. I mean, we'll talk about what happened to the Redskins later on, but for the Cowboys, however, they managed to squeeze in a victory. They stole the victory against the Falcons. Ezekiel Elliott had 122 yards rushing. He had a great game himself. And this team might be able to pull it off. They might be able to take the division from the jaws of defeat. Yeah,
and their defense has been playing really well this year. We saw it again yesterday, holding a Falcons team in Atlanta to 19 points is obviously really good. Not only did Elliott have 122 yards rushing, but he also had 79 yards receiving. He was the Cowboys' leading rusher and receiver. And they're finding ways to get him the ball. They're finding ways to utilize him. I still think they're a flawed team offensively, not the best offensive team at times, and Dak isn't the greatest pocket passer, but with that defense, it gives them a chance to win each week. And in that division, you can win without, maybe being the best on both sides of the ball, because the Eagles and now the Redskins are very vulnerable. So we'll see how it goes. But about the Falcons, they have now lost 2 in a row. They lost to the Browns. They lost to the Cowboys. They're sitting at 4-6. Do you think their chance at a playoff berth is over?
To be honest, I did not see a playoff appearance for them.
Yeah, I think it's pretty obvious.
They're in a very tough. They're probably in the toughest division in the league, I would say. And having been 4-6 compared to the Saints and Panthers, yeah, that's not. There's no way.
Yeah,
well, I mean, there is a way, obviously, but it's a very long shot. They're not officially eliminated from the playoffs yet, but seeing this will be a huge issue.
Julio Jones scored a touchdown, so there's one positive thing that happened yesterday for the Falcons. But, let's just jump into it. We've alluded to it. The Redskins, they lose 23-21. But the big story here is Alex Smith suffered a pretty gruesome leg injury, very reminiscent to the Joe Theismann leg injury. He broke both bones. It was pretty obvious when he was injured that his leg was broken. He will now miss the rest of the season. They will turn to Colt McCoy and possibly another player, another quarterback for the rest of the season. But Jeff, what do you take from this game? And does this mean the Redskins season is over, even though they are technically leading the division at this point?
Well, seeing this, honestly, the only thing I could see is the injury. It was one of the most disturbing images you can see, just when you see a guy's leg really kind of wiggled, which is a really gross sight because that's not how the body is supposed to react. And the worst part is he knew it was instantly. Like, usually you're in shock, you don't feel it, but he knew, like, right off the bat it was what it was. He broke his tibia and fibula. He's out for the season. And that, honestly, if they keep with Colt McCoy, I do not see them going to... They might be able to pull it off. I mean, he did well. I mean, he had 50% passing, 54 yards and a touchdown. Almost won the game for them. Almost had that comeback. But I don't know. It's going to be a very tough road ahead of them if they want to take this. If they want to take the division once and for all, but it's not going to be easy.
Yeah, and I think they have to stick with him. You can't trade for anybody. The trade deadline is over, and there are guys off the street right now, but those players are currently not playing on teams because they're not good or they're not valued as being good. So for the Redskins, it's Colt McCoy. He's been their backup for a while now, and they just got to go forward with it. I don't see them holding on to this division lead. I would even say the Eagles at this point, being 2 games behind, I would think that they would have a better shot than the Redskins would, just because I don't have any faith that McCoy can win games for his team. Alex Smith at least is a consistent player. He might not be the best quarterback in the NFL, but he knows how to lead a team. He knows how to win games that are winnable. So
He also needed immediate surgery for the injury. And Joe Theismann, his injury, he never played again. And Joe Theismann on Twitter said, Alex Smith's leg is exactly like mine 33 years ago. Does that mean he's done? Does that mean his career's over?
I wouldn't go that far, because medical technology, especially in the world of sports injuries, is a lot better than it was 33 years ago. But hey, it's definitely a devastating injury. I mean, I don't want to say that, Alex Smith will be the same player or anything like that. It is. It will be something to see. We'll see how his progress does in rehab, and hopefully he'll be back here in the next year. But a lot of things that were coincidental with that injury. 33 years to the day, Joe Theismann in attendance. I just read from a Redskins beat writer that it was on the same yard line, and the final score of both games were the exact same. Like, man, that's some pretty eerie stuff,
Yeah, it's pretty disturbing, to say the least, and very interesting. It's eerie is the right word to use when you're talking about 33 years of the date, same yardage, same place it happened, and all that stuff. It's just, I don't know. There's a very odd feeling to it, because that was the end of the Redskins' chances in the 80s when he got injured. They were during they were in a Super Bowl run and so on and so forth. They won it in the 90s, sure, but the 80s, that could have been a dynasty type thing, and I don't know. This might be the same for the Redskins. They might lose a chance at a potential Super Bowl run. Who knows?
Texans were fortunate to hold on to that game. I thought they played sloppy football. But they now improved to 7-3. The Houston Texans are quietly 7-3. They're actually in the mix right now for a first-round playoff bye. I know that sounds weird to say, but when you look at the standings after the results from yesterday, they are now in that conversation. So let's move on to last night's Sunday Night Football game. And I thought it was a very impressive performance. The Chicago Bears, they beat Minnesota 25-20. I kind of feel like that score didn't really justify how the game went. The Vikings were terrible all night. They couldn't do anything on offense until the fourth quarter. The Bears, they proved last night that they might be a force in the NFC, even though we don't talk about them as being a possible Super Bowl team. That defense is devastating. What was your take from last night?
Devastating is the perfect word, I would say. And overall, you just got to look at does this how does this affect them mentally?
Who, the Bears or the Vikings?
I meant the Vikings. Just
yeah,
the Bears edged out the win, yeah, but the Vikings with Kirk Cousins, this was supposed to be the year they finally make it over that hump,
right?
And losing this game to your division rivals and having your guaranteed contract quarterback throw 2 pretty costly picks.
That one right before halftime
that was
looked like a punt.
Yeah, it was did you see Fitzpatrick's one of his guarantees where he just threw it up in the air like a 3 flags up? That was kind of like that. But Diggs had a great game, 126 yards, 1 touchdown, and all that. But it all comes down to the quarterback. And Kirk Cousins, like you said, the halftime pick really cost him, and it was little mistakes that the Vikings had. I know Chicago also had 3 turnovers, but they capitalized on the 3 turnovers. And when the Minnesota had their 3 turnovers, they didn't capitalize on their turnover on against Chicago. Trubisky didn't have the best game of his life, no way. and they didn't take advantage of those 3 turnovers. But when the Bears had those turnovers, they turned them into points.
Yeah, it wasn't a clean game by the Bears. The offense for Chicago let the Vikings stay in the game because they didn't capitalize as much as they could on Minnesota's bad offense in the first half. I mean, I know you're talking about turnovers, and the Bears did score points off of turnovers where Minnesota couldn't take advantage, but the fact is the Bears turned the ball over 3 times too. They turned the ball over twice when they were about to score points, so it kept Minnesota in the game. Minnesota's offensive line was just outmatched. We saw Khalil Mack get another fumble yesterday, another forced fumble, and Kirk Cousins was only sacked 2 times last night, but he had to have been under pressure for 40 to 45% of the time he dropped back. He was always running. He was running for his life for most of that game. It wasn't just Khalil Mack either. Akeem Hicks was in the backfield.
Oh, this is maybe the best defense in the league.
We saw Dalvin Cook, who's very explosive, 9 carries for 12 yards. They couldn't run the ball at all. It seemed like they were going backwards when they ran the ball when they tried. And you talked about Diggs having a big game. Most of those yards came in the fourth quarter when they're down 2-3 scores.
Yeah, where they had to throw the ball.
Yeah, so I mean, not that they're like empty stats or anything like that, but I mean, if you look at the stats of the game, like in the first 3 quarters, I would say that the Vikings doubled their offense in the fourth quarter just because they were kind of in that no huddle, playing from behind mode, but it wasn't enough. The Bears, they might be a team that we need to start taking seriously.
Yeah, and there was also that costly pick 6 by Kirk Cousins.
Oh yeah,
and that was early in the game, sure, or relatively early, but it was still one of those things where it got out of hand. It was that was not smart. That was a costly error, and that cost them. That might have cost them the game because the score was 25-20.
Yeah, it was in the first part of the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
So
early part of the fourth quarter is what I meant to say. Sorry, I just forgot to say fourth. And that was what, 20-6. It made it 26.
That was a backbreaker.
Yeah, and and the weird thing is they got to 25. It's just a weird score number to me. It's so it was 20-25. If they had to try something with 52 seconds left in the fourth quarter, they needed 6 points, not a
You know what I loved about that pick 6?
But
their coach Matt Nagy, who's an aggressive, not conservative type coach. What did he do? They got up by 14 on the pick 6. He could have taken the extra point and gone up 15. No, he goes for 2. To make it a 16-point difference. I know that might not seem like it was very consequential. They get the 2. But being up 16 there, I mean, you're really forcing your opponent to be perfect in their comeback. They have to score twice and get 2 2-point conversions.
And if he doesn't get that,
they're still at 14. Game. Yeah, they're still at 14. You know, it's I love the aggressiveness. I love it. And we saw, with the Vikings there, they scored 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, but then they're still down 5 points.
Well, the thing is, the Bears also went for 2 after the pick 6. Mm-hmm. And if they don't get that...
Well, that's what I said. That's where
you were talking about Cousins, too.
No, I'm talking about the Bears got a pick 6 and immediately went for 2. They didn't just kick the extra point.
It was 20, not 14.
Mm-hmm.
You said 14.
No. I said they were up 14.
Oh, I see.
They were up 14.
I thought you said they had 14. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, they made it to
that
16.
Makes more sense. Okay.
But yeah, awesome game by the Bears defense. I mean, that's basically what we got to say.
That's why they're as good as they are right now. It's not Trubinsky, it's the defense. It's Khalil Mack.
And now we look at that division, and as good as that division is, it's theirs.
Oh yeah, totally theirs.
They would need to definitely fall off the map.
Yeah.
So okay, so why don't we take a break? We come back. We got some more NFL to talk about.
Yes,
and then we can recap some of the action in the NBA. A lot of games happened this weekend, but there's 2 big storylines I think that came from the NBA this weekend.
Yeah, totally. We'll be right back right after this.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines, they got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
And welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast. We're finishing up the recap of the NFL Week 11 Sunday games. We've talked about Bears and Vikings. We've talked about Saints and Eagles. We've talked about the Redskins and the Texans. Now let's move on to another game. What do you got on the table for us?
Jacksonville Jaguars hosted the Steelers yesterday.
An ugly game.
A war of words, as we know. Jalen Ramsey likes to talk. The Steelers in general are a team that likes to talk too. So we saw a lot of yapping on the field. And of course, this is the first game after the Steelers knew that Le'Veon Bell would not return for this season. And Jacksonville, although playing a very good game defensively, they fall 20-16. Roethlisberger gets a touchdown pass late in the game to Vance McDonald. So I'm
going to give you one stat that really made a difference in this game. 104 yards passing.
Bortles?
Yes. No quarterback should be throwing 104 yards passing in any game whatsoever. You should be at least getting 2 to 250. 104 is absolutely unacceptable.
Yeah, and the Steelers scored twice in the final minutes of the game to win. Vance McDonald and then Roethlisberger on the run. Did you see the Roethlisberger touchdown run?
Yeah.
It was very Roethlisberger.
It was very slow.
It was slow, discombobulated.
It was like we're in slow motion.
Discombobulated, but he falls in. He gets it. So
yeah, and also Bortles was sacked 6 times for a total of 40 yards, and Roethlisberger was only sacked twice.
Yeah, the story of this game was the Jaguars' defense played amazing football for basically 55 minutes of the game. They fell at the end, but I put this game solely on that offense. They could not score points.
The secondary was elite, no question about it, for the Jaguars. Ramsey had those 2 interceptions. It was very huge interceptions, no question about it. But also, you got to look at the fact they gave it to an offense that really is inept.
Yeah.
I hate to say it. Like, all due respect to the running backs, Leonard Fournette, Carlos Hyde, and Yeldon, but Bortles is not the guy. I don't believe he's the guy. I think a lot of people don't think he's the guy, and he's had opportunity after opportunity and still hasn't really made a name for himself. So do you think they should look for someone in the draft for a new quarterback, or do you think they should look for someone in free agency? What do you think they should do?
Well, they're all of a sudden in the conversation to have a top 5 pick now. So they might have the opportunity to draft the best quarterback available at this point. They really could. I know we keep talking about the Raiders and the Giants, but those 2 teams won yesterday. We talked about those teams in terms of looking for possible quarterback in the first round. Both those teams won yesterday. The Jaguars lost. They're getting close to that top 3, top 4 range.
To be completely honest, the team that really won for the first pick was the 49ers, because every team that needed to lose for them to get the number 1 pick lost. And they're in the number 1 pick now. They're officially the number 1 pick.
Yeah, if the season ended today, they would be. The Raiders would fall to 3 with their win yesterday. But yeah, that's what I take away from the Jaguars-Pittsburgh game, is that obviously Blake Bortles is not the guy. They need a change there. I don't know if free agency is going to provide an option. We hear maybe Derek Carr will be available, but is that really an upgrade? I'm not so sure. So we'll kind of see what they do. I think Blake Bortles is definitely playing the rest of the season for his starting job and as a starting quarterback in the NFL. How about we go to the Ravens-Bengals? Lamar Jackson's first start. That was interesting.
It was like he was a running back. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do know what you mean. They hardly threw. They only threw when they really needed to throw the ball.
Yeah, they did not use him in a quarterback situation. It felt like it was just like. It was almost like, remember the Dolphins Wildcat when like running around the running back was the running quarterback basically? That's exactly what this was.
When they beat the Patriots, that's where they introduced that game plan. Yeah. So Lamar Jackson carried the ball 27 times. Yes, 27 times, 117 yards. They were ripping off big plays in the run game too. I know the final numbers make the averages look normal, but Gus Edwards, where did he come from? This running back for the Ravens had a huge game too. I mean, combined they ran for 230 yards, those two players. So the Bengals lose. They are now 5-5. The Ravens are now 5-5. Seems like both teams are hindering each other at this point. So we'll see if either one can move forward from here. But speaking of quarterbacks, I think teams might need to move on from Dalton and Flacco. Dalton obviously lost yesterday, and Flacco didn't play. Those are two quarterbacks that might be available this offseason.
Yeah, this could be a very interesting offseason to say the least. And overall, you said Blake Bortles is playing for his job, but I think his job's done. You know what I mean? I think it's, yeah.
What about the Broncos and Case Keenum getting that last-second win, 23-22 over the Chargers, the surging Los Angeles Chargers? Were you surprised by that?
Surprise is a strong word for this. I would say I went, that's interesting.
So mildly surprised?
Yeah, I guess so. I was just unexpected. That was an unexpected outcoming.
Yeah, I don't know. You know, when you get in these division games, a lot of times in the NFL, division games can get a little weird. The upsets can happen. Underdogs can all of a sudden play better, and it kind of seemed like the Broncos were up for this game. It seemed like
Philip Lindsay had a game. Mm-hmm. And, all right, I got to ask this question because it kind of bothers me. I know this is really late to talk about, but him being number 30, does that bother you?
What do you mean?
That's for Terrell Davis' number. Shouldn't that be retired? Shouldn't Terrell Davis have no one should ever wear that number again? That's like someone after Tom Brady wears number 12. You know what I mean? It's just or someone wore number 7 for John Elway on the Broncos. I don't know.
Yeah,
I thought it was a little unnecessary. It was really, you're gonna give that number to somebody else? I don't care who it is. It could have been the next greatest running back of all time. Terrell Davis, that was his number. You don't take that away from him. Yeah. That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe. I see what you're saying, though. He was a legend for sure. Mm. One of the best players in Bronco history.
But the main part of the story is Chargers are lost. Their winning streak is over. Yeah,
and their quest to kind of stay right behind Kansas City and wait for Kansas City to fall. Well, now there's a little bit of a cushion.
They're still going to get the wild card, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would say so. How about we go to two teams that won't be making the wild card, the Giants and the Bucks. The Giants, I told you I had a sneaky feeling that this game was going to be the highest scoring game, a very competitive game. 38-35. Giants win. They're 3-7. The Bucks are also 3-7. Is the Fitz magic over in Tampa Bay?
Bye-bye.
He got benched again.
They're gonna get benched until nausea. They don't know what to do.
They're gonna keep getting benched for each other.
Yeah, exactly.
Winston will probably start this week and get benched at halftime.
Oh, I would not doubt it.
So Winston tried to lead a comeback, as we've seen many Bucks quarterbacks try this year. Winston and Fitzpatrick have both had their hand in coming back in games, making things interesting. The comeback falls short. The story of this game, Jeff, for me, Saquon Barkley. I mean, that guy is something else. 142 yards, 3 touchdowns in the game. He scored 3 times. I mean, man, this kid is something else. I know we talk about did the Giants make the right move and not take a quarterback, but you got to hand it to Barkley. He's a phenomenal player, and he had a great game yesterday.
He may be I think he's rookie of the year caliber, obviously, and I just think this was the best ready player for the NFL going into this season, like rookie class wise. Again, I'm still doubting, was this the right choice for the Giants? Giants, not against Barkley, because he would have been great anywhere. But if they needed a quarterback instead in this draft class, because I know they can still get Justin Herbert. I can still see that. But I don't know, just giving up a lot of, because you had the second pick in the draft, you had a lot of options. And you go with a great pick, no question about it. I love Barkley. But you got to look at, like, where do they need a position the most? I thought it was the quarterback position. They thought they could play with Eli, but I think after this season, Eli's done, and they're kind of back to square one. Even with a great running back, you can only do so much.
I want to see what Barkley can do behind a great offensive line, because we're seeing what he can do with a bad offensive line. I think it could be pretty scary. So we'll see what happens going further in the season. So let's see. We got 2 games left. Panthers-Lions. The Panthers lose on the road. They go for 2.
I did not see this coming.
They go for 2 with a minute left to try and get the win instead of taking the tie and maybe playing for overtime.
I love the cojones, though. I respect the cojones.
Riverboat Ron, as he likes to be called, because of his aggressive style of coaching. Well, his aggressiveness did not work out this time as Cam Newton's pass falls
question.
incomplete.
Do you blame Newton or do you blame Gano for missing one of his extra points?
I thought that Cam Newton's pass for the 2-point conversion was pretty bad.
Because it could have been tied if he made one of those extra points, and they won't be in that situation.
Yeah, Gano missed an extra point earlier in the game.
There were some interesting misses.
I don't know if I would have gone for 2, to be honest with you.
They had a lot on the line. Yeah, that was odd.
It's always easy to say in hindsight that because it didn't work out that you wouldn't do it, but there was a minute left in the game, and with the overtime rules the way they are, I thought maybe going for 1 would have been the okay there, but I'm not upset that they went for. I don't think it was the wrong choice. I just don't know if I would have made it in that situation. I thought their offense was kind of discombobulated all day, so maybe that was why when I was watching that game, I just thought, oh, I don't know. This seems kind of risky. And, the Panthers, they don't really have that one receiver that you can trust in that situation. Even a guy like Greg Olsen, he's a little bit older now, doesn't get the same separation, so ultimately they lose. It was a big loss for Carolina. They fall to 6-4. Some other teams that they're fighting with for that wild card spot, other teams had won, and the Saints won again. So Carolina's pretty much done when it comes to the division.
Yeah, but they can still make it into the playoffs, no question about it. So I think they're now fighting for that first wild card spot. So they face a relatively easier team than or the second wild card spot. You know what I mean? So
yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, Seattle's right there, Minnesota's right there.
It's gonna be a close one.
Yeah, Minnesota, Seattle. I mean, heck, even teams like the Packers and the Eagles are not dead. The Redskins are still winning their division. Even if they falter, they might end up being a wild card team. So we'll see. Okay, last game of the day. The Oakland Raiders get their second win of the season. They kick a field goal as time expires to beat the Arizona Cardinals 23-21. Raiders are now 2-8. The win comes at a cost, though, Jeff, as they were the number 1 pick going into this game for next year's draft. They are now the number 3 due to strength of schedule, as they are tied with the Cardinals and the 49ers in terms of record, but because of strength of schedule, they moved to the 3rd pick if the season ended today. A costly win. Was the win worth it?
I don't think so. I don't think there's any hope there's zero hope for a playoff. So why why win this game. Well, you can't tell a team to lose.
Yeah, players will always try to win.
I know that sounds awful, but sometimes maybe you gotta say, maybe not try your best, or putting like all your bench players. Like there are some people that have done that in the past. So I don't know. I don't think it was worth it.
Yeah, Derek Carr had 2 touchdowns, no picks. We saw him argue with John Gruden on the sideline.
Well, they lost their number 1 pick too, which is pretty gruesome.
I'm starting to have real concerns about Josh Rosen as a quarterback in the NFL. He was 9 of 20 with 2 interceptions yesterday.
That is the highlight of this
quarterback
year.
rating of 6.
And they won.
If it wasn't for David Johnson, this team would have been pretty lost on offense. Rosen only had 120 yards passing.
Sorry. Yeah.
Rosen 128 yards passing. David Johnson had 137 yards on the ground. He had a good game, but again,
this was an awful game to watch.
Fitzgerald had 2 catches in the game. They both were touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean, on paper it looks like, this might have been an interesting game, but
oh, this was bad football.
This was bad.
Rosen made a atrocious defense look decent, which was interesting. I'm wondering about him, man. I don't know. He's having a really tough rookie season. It seems like he's not getting better as the games go on.
Yeah, well, the Cardinals losing this game means they won the game in the long run.
They get closer to the number 1 pick, the number 2.
Absolutely.
But they beat San Francisco twice because
that's going to hurt them. If they don't win another game, they're going to get the number 2 pick, and San Francisco might get the number 1 pick. I think that's what's going to happen in the long run.
Yeah.
But if I'm the 49ers, if I'm the Oakland Raiders, and if I'm the Arizona Cardinals and the New York Giants, I even put the Buccaneers in there, don't win another game. There's no
Well, the Buccaneers play the 49ers this week, so there's one of those teams will have to win.
I think every single game the last couple of weeks have had 2 of the worst teams in the NFL, like battling it out. Like whoever loses really wins in the long run. There's been a lot of those games.
So what do you say we take a break? We still have to discuss the Monday Night Football game tonight. We also need to talk about the NBA action. We have 2 segments left, so we can do that in both of those. We'll do that when we come back.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
And welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast. We just finished talking about the Week 11 matchups in the NFL. Now we're moving on to the National Basketball Association before we get to Monday Night Football. This weekend was interesting. The Warriors kind of got beat.
Kind of?
Twice. A lot.
Yeah, they've been losing games.
They've lost
a lot of losses
3
now.
straight now?
Yes.
They lost to the Rockets on Thursday. They lost to the Mavericks on Saturday. And yesterday on Sunday, they lost to the Spurs.
This is the first 3-game losing streak in Steve Kerr's career as head coach of the Warriors.
The most shocking one is losing to Dallas, though. I think that's like the most surprising one.
Yeah, I think they're all surprising. I think the biggest surprise here is the scores. Is how much they're scoring. They scored 86 against the Rockets. And then they turn around. They score 109 against the Mavericks, which is a good score, a good output.
And then 92.
And then 92. I mean, we talked about this team. This team had not scored under 110 points until the last 2 weeks. Now they've done it 4 times, including 2 games under 100, one in the 80s. I mean,
and they lost their games by they lost 2 of those games by double digits.
Yeah, and we know about the problems with Durant and Draymond. Sounds like Draymond.
Oh, the internet is loving this, by the way. Mm-hmm. They are having a field day with this.
Yeah, Curry's still hurt, so he's trying to play peacemaker from the sidelines. Klay Thompson and Kevin Durant are in a shooting slump, big slump, which is weird. I don't know. Are you concerned if you're a Warriors fan, or if you're looking at the NBA? Do you think that the Warriors will be able to bounce back from this pretty easily, or do you think that this is actual cause for concern?
As a guy that likes competitive matchups and competitive NBA, I think this would be the start of something. Like
You're hoping?
I'm hoping for something competitive.
Yeah.
But thanks to life, I've accepted the fact that this is just a little skip.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I think they'll be fine when Curry's back. He should be back in a week or 2. But, you know, when he's on the court, the Warriors are just a different team. And even if you think Durant's better than Curry, the Warriors are not the same team when it's just Durant. It's Curry is he really stirs the drink, you know, for that team. He is the player, not just with his scoring, but he's just that type of player. He's that type of passer, that type of leader on the court. That when everything is going, I mean, he's the right guy to lead that orchestra. So, yeah, I think they'll be fine. As much as I want to see, you know, some drama, I want to see other teams win and be a threat. I don't know. If you're asking me, do I really think so? No. I think the Warriors will be just fine.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think that's the case also. I'm not saying unfortunate just because I like you don't know who's going to win situation, but I feel like it's not going to change anything. And I don't like that. I like the unexpected. I like not knowing who's going to come out on top, you know? But when you kind of already do, it's like watching a movie you know the ending to a little bit. You're going to enjoy the middle and the beginning, but at the end you're kind of like, I've seen this. I know what's happening.
I actually went to the movies this weekend, and that happened to me. I did not see the ending coming.
What movie did you see?
I saw A Star Is Born.
Oh, I heard that was a good movie.
It is really good, but I did not see...
Don't spoil it for our audience.
No. I'm not saying it was bad at all. It was really, really good.
If you like country music, I heard it's like that's one of the main movies you should watch in your lifetime.
I mean, there's a little bit of country music, but it's mostly like pop music. But it's awesome.
Well, it's based off a country music star, you know?
Yeah, well, Bradley Cooper, who directs the movie and stars in it, which is crazy.
A lot of people do that nowadays.
Yeah.
John Krasinski did that on A Way Out. But this isn't a movie podcast. But
we're talking about a guy who wrote songs, sang songs, and starred and directed the movie. I know that Krasinski did that, but I still think it's on a different level. But we'll talk about that some other time. Anyways, I did not see that ending coming, so that's what I was getting at.
Yeah.
With
it's like when Snape kills Dumbledore.
Oh my god! Now we've gone completely off the rails.
Yeah. All right. Anyways, if anyone doesn't get that reference, I'm sorry. But overall, I see this as we know the outcome is still going to be they're going to be first in the Western Conference.
So how about the Los Angeles Lakers?
What about them?
They seem to be getting back on track. LeBron James scores 51 last night. They beat the Heat 113-97.
He seems to do well against former teams he's played for.
He is now the 5th person in NBA history to score 50 points with 3 different teams.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I think it just says that wherever he goes, he just dominates, right?
You see, like Michael Jordan, he only played for basically
2 teams.
Well, I wouldn't count the Wizards as that, like, he's in his prime or anything. Like, LeBron's at his best right now. And Michael Jordan at his best didn't really go to Chicago to somewhere else, you know?
The Lakers won.
I'm not putting down LeBron. I'm just saying, like, different situations. But 51 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists.
Do you know that LeBron and Lonzo Ball last night combined had 53 points?
Lonzo had 2.
Lonzo Ball was 1 of 6 shooting at 2 points in 22 minutes.
0 for 4 from 3. 6 for 8 for 3s for LeBron. This still, in my opinion, shows that LeBron James is the best player in basketball right now, and maybe one of the best ever.
Yeah.
If you don't think he's one of the best, if he's not in your top 5 best ever, you're in denial.
He needs to be in your top 2. Let's just be honest. Like, he needs to be in your top 2.
I'm being nice about it. If he's not in your top 5, you're kind of in denial.
I know some people.
You're a hater. You're a hater at that point.
I know
right?
some people will never put him over Michael Jordan, even if LeBron won 5 titles in a row in the next 5 years.
If he had all those appearances, 7 in a row, and he won all 7, still not better than LeBron.
Yeah, people would
still
say
not better than Jordan.
People would still say super team this, super team that, whatever. You know.
Michael Jordan also had a super team, but we won't get into that.
Yeah,
he
right.
had Dennis Rodman and Scottie Pippen and
Super
Horace
coach.
Grant. And one of the best coaches of all time, true.
Yeah.
But like Dennis Rodman was one of the best defensive players of all time, and Scottie Pippen was also
you said you don't want to
player.
get into it. I can get into it if you want to.
No, I didn't say I didn't want to get into it. I'm just saying the fact of the matter is Dennis Rodman averaged, 15, 20 rebounds a game, and Scottie Pippen was no slouch of his own. Horace Grant was a great player.
The moral of the story is people's arguments for LeBron or Jordan are always ridiculous. It doesn't matter who you support in this argument. It's always like, well, so-and-so didn't have a super team. Oh, yeah, well, so-and-so didn't have to go to a different team, or so-and-so played baseball for a year, came back and won champ.
Yeah, LeBron went to the MLB for... wait, you mean Jordan.
Yeah, it's just out of control, these conversations, but
it's hard to listen to.
Yeah, I would say.
I would definitely say, I understand the arguments of who you're supporting. If you're like a 90, if you watch the game in the 90s, you can say that. If you watch more of the game than today, you can see LeBron's best. You just got to go side-by-side comparisons, but I still think LeBron's a little better than Jordan. Jordan is the most successful player of all time, or maybe not the most successful of all time, but most successful in the clutch. But LeBron overall is the better athlete and better player.
You want to know something crazy?
What?
We always talk about the West and the East in basketball. In the Western Conference, there are only 3 teams under 500.
That's impressive.
In the East, there are 9.
This shows that the Western Conference is superior, no?
I just think it's crazy that we're so early in the season and it's already showing big time that one conference is better than the other. Usually it takes at least to mid-season. And
the 2 worst teams in the NBA are in the East.
The
Cavs and the Hawks.
Right now, Charlotte would be in the playoffs in the East at 7 wins. They would be the 2nd worst team in the West.
The Grizzlies and Nuggets are both 10-win teams right now.
Yeah.
And that's not 10 wins right now is impressive. And the
Clippers
have 10 wins. The Raptors and Bucks are one thing. And even the Trailblazers 11 wins. The Raptors and Bucks would have not as a firm grip on their conference as they do now if they were in the Western.
Right. What about Portland? They're on top of the West right now. Are you surprised?
A little bit, but this team is always quietly really good. That's just their MO.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to say that they're going to hold on to this for long because just that's how the West works. But it'll be nice to think about with them for the time being until after today's games might change for all we know.
The Western Conference is crazy. I mean, every night there's big games. Every night there's changes in the standings. I mean, teams moving up, teams moving down. We'll see what happens here in a few weeks. I think from here until Christmas will kind of give us a better idea.
Well, the Trailblazers have their work cut out for them because tomorrow they play the Knicks.
Oh.
And yeah, they're playing the Knicks tomorrow. And then on Wednesday they're playing the Bucks. I'm excited.
That'll
for
be
that
a good game.
That's going to be an excellent game.
So they play tomorrow against the Knicks?
Tomorrow against the Knicks, Wednesday against the Bucks.
Back to back. Yeah, hopefully they'll just take care of the Knicks.
Facing a really easy team to a really bad team, so it's not really a back-to-back, if anything.
All right. So what do you say we go to a break?
Sure.
We come back. We got Monday Night Football preview.
Oh,
Big game
probably the biggest game of the year, by far.
Mm-hmm.
And we're doing it in Los Angeles and Mexico City.
Yep.
But we already discussed that. We'll be right back right after this.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back, all you lovely people, to the final segment of the GSMC Sports Podcast. We are talking about the Monday Night Football matchup between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Los Angeles Rams. The game of the year by far, most looked forward to Monday night game. Both have a combined record of 18 wins and only 2 losses this season.
Yep, and
That's
the 2
insane.
losses are against the Patriots and the Saints.
And they were close games. They weren't like blowouts.
This is going to be a fun one.
This is going to be a fun one. Todd Gurley versus Kareem Hunt. Jared Goff versus Patrick Mahomes. Tyreek Hill versus Brandon Cooks. Who's on the defense?
D. Ford has been killing it for the Chiefs lately.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, this is more of an offensive battle than a
Aaron
defensive
Donald,
battle.
of course.
Of course, Aaron Donald. I'm just saying, like, who's Aaron Donald versus who? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, there's some, like, Eric Berry, I guess. But you could say, like, they have solid defenses, but they are both offensive teams without question.
Yeah, I think most people would expect this game to be like in the 30s, point-wise.
You want to hear a really close statistic? For passing yards, both of them, Jared Goff has 3,134 yards. Patrick Mahomes has 3,150.
Mm-hmm.
They're only off by, like, 16 yards? And they both, like, Mahomes has 31 touchdowns, granted, because he had that hot start. Goff only has 22 himself, and they only have 6 picks, 7 picks apart. Like they've been playing extremely well with their teams, and of course Todd Gurley and Kareem Hunt been playing at an absolute level. Todd Gurley probably the best running back in the NFL right now, and
Yeah.
Brandon
Kareem
Cook,
Hunt, though, has an argument, right? Like, I mean,
oh absolutely,
they both are kind of
yeah,
do everything for their team, you know?
absolutely, no question about it. When you look at their carries though, like Gurley gets like 30 more carries than Hunt. And he has 200 more yards, but that goes without saying. So, but like Tyreek Hill and Brandon Cooks are pretty even in their own rights too. Like not like yards wise. Like Tyreek Hill has 891 yards right now, and Brandon Cooks has 857 yards. This team is so evenly
They're
matched.
both like similar players. They're very fast. They're not tall.
Something's got to give. This game is so evenly matched.
Something's got to give, like the field that they were supposed to play on.
That would have hurt the game. I feel like.
So now they move it to L.A., so it's our home game for
I
the
feel like
Rams.
it's a little dangerous to play in LA. No, the smoke of the wildfires.
They played games there yesterday.
Yeah, but I don't know. I know the wind is mainly coming up northern. It's all northern, but it's still all of California feels like it's almost unsafe.
I don't know how it's affecting the game. I know that USC and UCLA just played on Saturday, and then they had the Chargers game yesterday. So
yeah, we live in Northern California at the moment, and every time we go outside, it hurts your lungs. I have to say. And
so
like,
no Cooper Kupp for the Rams.
Yeah.
What do you think? Do you think that the Rams will be hindered by that? Do you think? I mean, I know their offense is really good. Gurley's obviously their focal point, but will his injury affect their rest of the season?
I think they'll be fine because they have a lot of depth in that team, especially in the wide receiver part. But it's something going to hurt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So the Chiefs come in at 35 points per game. The Rams at 33. Chiefs allowing 24, Rams 23.
like I said,
both teams have over 400 yards.
This must be
total.
the most evenly matched game of the year by far. Like, this game is so even. It's scary. They play the same tempo. They play the same way. Like, Andy Reid and McVay may be like the same person.
The same person.
Yes. Just
one's just older and has a mustache, and the other one is younger and looks like the strength and conditioning coach.
From North. Do you remember that? Have you seen the Northwestern strength and conditioning coach?
No.
Are you not? Oh my!
Is he just like super ripped or what?
He is the most energetic, angry. Well, not angry, but hyped dude, and the most ripped. He wears t-shirts like a size too short. And he's a I'll show you a picture of him. But as we're talking about this, as I'm showing you this, he like both Andy Reid and McVay, both are up for Coach of the Year by far.
Oh yeah.
Who
this
do you
could
give
be
for,
a possible Super Bowl preview.
Who do you give for Coach of the Year right now?
Right now, I'd probably say Andy Reid because
usually
he's working with Patrick
downhill.
Mahomes.
Yes,
I would say I want to say Sean Payton, but at the same time, he has a veteran quarterback who's playing at an exceptional level. Not that all these guys are playing.
Him.
All these guys are playing at an exceptional level, but I mean, Andy Reid, what he's been able to do with a new quarterback has been pretty impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. Like Andy Reid has done this in the past. Like played with what he got and does well. But one thing that is almost certain in his tenure has been a downhill, and there's no downhill right now. Knock on wood for him.
But you're waiting for it.
I'm kind of
tonight going to be the first game of the downhill.
Unless they lose 8, 7, 6 straight, I'm not convinced that he's doing on a downhill. I think still, but the thing is, when it comes to the playoffs, there's something wrong with Andy Reid. You can't deny that.
Yeah, I mean he hasn't won.
He doesn't have a Super Bowl ring, but like he's had leads in the postseason many times and loses those leads because of questionable call making.
So who do you think wins tonight?
This is in LA, so I'm going to give the edge to LA.
So the Rams, okay. What do you think?
If it was in Kansas City, I would have won with Kansas City. But I'm going to go with 35-34. 1 point.
35-34 Rams win?
Yes.
Well, I'm going to take the Chiefs. You took the Rams. I'll take the Chiefs.
Fair enough.
I think it will. I think we're pretty much probably think the same thing. It's going to be high scoring. It's going to be a close game. I like the Chiefs in this game. I think we're going to see an incredible score tonight. I think we're going to see
68-102.
No, I think we're going to see 44-41.
Okay.
85 points.
Well, this is like we said, two of the best offensive teams in the league. I don't think there's any question about that.
I think it'll just be a track meet from the beginning.
Who's going to be the star player for both teams? Like, who's going to go off? Is it going to be like Tyreek Hill? Is it Kareem Hunt? Is it Patrick Mahomes? Is it Todd Gurley? Is it Jared Goff? Is it Brandon Cooks? Or is it all 6?
I think Travis Kelce is going to have the biggest game from the Chiefs side.
Ooh.
So I see Kelce getting like maybe not like 150 yards, but like 100 yards, and I think at least 2 touchdowns because I think him in the red zone will be dominant. So
I see.
What do you think?
I think that the running games for both of these guys, they're both going to get over 100 yards rushing.
Yeah, I would say
I will even go on a limb and say they're both going to get over 120 yards rushing.
So who do you think will have the biggest game between the two running backs?
I'm going to go Gurley. I think their rushing game is better than the Kansas City game because I think Kansas City has a better passing game, but I think the Rams have a better running game.
Yeah, plus I think Hunt, if we're looking at the matchup, I think Hunt has a little bit tougher of a defensive line to go agast, like Arnold and Sue.
That's
Donald.
what I was mainly looking at, yeah.
Yeah, Donald and Sue are right there. I mean, those are big guys. Those are dynamic defenders. And then, not that the Chiefs' defense hasn't been playing well, but they can still allow a lot, especially in the run game. So, man, I don't know. This game I think will have over 80 points scored though. If I was to guess, which is incredible.
Points? Yep, I can definitely see that.
Well, you have it right there. I mean,
I have it around 60-ish.
69 points, 70 points. So,
but again, it's like that's still impressive. That's still a lot.
I probably went too high on the score, but I mean, I'm excited about it, so maybe my excitement kind of got to me a little bit.
Yeah, but I think this game it has hype for a reason.
All right, so I think that's it for today. Join us tomorrow. Again, we have other podcasts on the GSMC Podcast Network, football, baseball. We do fantasy football even. We have our soccer podcast, of course. You can find those on the GSMC Podcast Network, so please check those out. We will be doing our football and fantasy football podcast today. So if you'd like to tune into those, you should be able to click on over after this show and listen to those. So anything you'd like to add, Jeff?
No, thank you so much for listening to us, and we hope to have you listen to our other podcasts. So we'll see you then.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.